Now we're continuing our look back at the National Football League, the opening round weekend. Delighted to be joined by former Sligo star Neil Ewing. How are you, Neil?
Hey Michael, how's things? How's the form?
Good. Were you as happy as everybody else to have the leagues back? There seems to be, with the split season now, it just seems like the 6-month gap between, the end of last year's championship and the start of next year's league. Grounds around the country just seem to be buzzing from looking over at all the different games all over the weekend. Pretty full stadiums, fans just absolutely mad for action.
Yeah, definitely. I think there's nothing like the close season to give kind of every county a little bit of hope. And I think when you extend that close season a little bit longer, it only increases the hope in all the counties. Now, the only thing I will say, as a player, I loved playing, probably the harder grounds, the brighter days. So, starting the league in January isn't ideal from that perspective. You're probably at the mercy of poorer weather conditions, but definitely from a supporter's perspective, I think we really want action back after the long inter-county break.
You're stepped away a while now, Neil, but when you have these big games coming back around this time of the year, do you feel that kind of itch of, knowing that these big games are around the corner? These are the games that you did all the hard slogging for to showcase your talents on a Saturday afternoon or evening or Sunday afternoon.
Definitely, yeah. And I think, we spoke about there from a supporter's point of view, but there is something special even from a player's point of view, the first National League game. There's a few kind of milestones in the season that definitely trigger that little bit of nostalgia for which you kind of remember the good points about it. But definitely, after a long pre-season, even as the week went on last week, you'd nearly be putting yourself in the shoes of the lads. What would you be doing on the Monday of the week of the first league game? The Tuesday night, you're probably used to the last 3 Tuesday nights or the first 3 Tuesday nights in January. Heavy slogging. You're going into that last Tuesday night before the league, knowing things are going to be a bit lighter. Is there going to be a team named on the Tuesday night? Is the team going to be named Friday night? Again, the Friday night probably just a sharpening up session. You're hopping off the ground, and you're probably putting yourself in the shoes of the lads all week when you're just after stepping away. Really, yeah.
Do you? Sounds like you miss it somewhat as well. Like, it's one thing being a pundit and that, but do you still long somewhat for your playing days, or are you happy with your lot?
Yeah, as I said, there's a bit of nostalgia and rose-tinted glasses there. Like, it's the little Friday night sharpening up session that you might miss. But on a Tuesday night when you might have been jumping in a car in Sligo and heading down to that Lawn or Longford to meet the lads in Dublin and play through a session. I to be honest, I don't miss that now. Maybe clearing a bit of ice off the windscreen when you hop back into the car. No. So it's on balance, I think if you go hard for a while at it, give it your all, it's a bit easier to step away then.
Disappointing start for your own county in Division 4, Neil. Finished Sligo 11 points, Laois 2-11. I would say a big win for Laois, to be fair, because last season was probably a really, really disappointing season. A good win for Laois, but disappointing for your own lads on home soil in particular.
It's a huge win for Laois. They were just in a funny kind of place last year. Even some of their league games, I remember following Division 3 as the season went on last year. It's like everything, every league, every season, there's a sliding doors moment. There's a game or two that your whole season can kind of swing on. And Laois just seemed to lose a bit of momentum coming towards the end of the season. Then went into Tailteann Cup and probably underperformed versus their expectations in that. But at the same time, you see them coming down, and while they mightn't have, the same reputation as maybe a Cavan had, who were in Division 4 last year, I still fancy them to probably be the strongest team in the division. For them to come up to Sligo, who, would be perceived as one of the rivals for promotion, and go back down the road with 2 points is a huge win for them. Billy Sheehan lost, Colin Begley, Ross Monley, John Loughlin over the winter. That's a lot of experience gone from the dressing room. If you start a Division 4 season in a county that doesn't expect to be there, even just the outside noise can kind of start to seep into lads' heads. And a young squad like that, who has a few leaders, could lose momentum. So for him to have 2 points on the board heading into this weekend is huge. And even just to arrest that slide, you can imagine them, they're bouncing back into training on Tuesday. Whereas if they come away with 0 points, it's a different story going into training Tuesday night. And Sligo on the other hand, it was funny. I think there was a lot of, I'm reluctant to say expectation in Sligo last week, but there was a lot of, hopes were high heading into the season. And, I think probably even among the Sligo fan base, Laois were underestimated a little bit. And then, Sunday morning, we were even talking, I mentioned there, weather conditions. You woke up and, it seemed like it was a decent day, probably as good a day as you're going to get for a game of football in January. But just coming up to throwing time, conditions changed. And, it's not to make excuses for the lads at all. They'll be disappointed with some of the very simple mistakes that were made, some of the turnovers. But the weather did change. It turned into a heavy, wet sort of a day. The wind really picked up. And one thing Sligo probably lack, and it's no fault of the guys that are there, and maybe it's a gene pool issue in Sligo or how we're breeding them, but we don't have, naturally big men. You can put lads into a gym for 3 or 4 years on a strength and conditioning program, but, we probably don't have lads with the skeleton to put that, bulk on that really stands to you during winter football. Probably takes away from our ability to win primary possession. That can mean maybe, attacks are slower. If you're playing against a team with a well-organised defence, they become very hard to break down. Then on the other hand, if they're winning primary possession, Sligo are trying to play a relatively attacking brand of football. Even supporters mightn't think that sometimes to look at it. But if you're not winning that primary possession, the opposition are, and you're trying to push right up, you can leave yourself a little bit open at the back. And I think that's ultimately what won the game for Laois, and what Sligo will be really disappointed with is the concession of the 2 goals.
An opening round defeat kind of puts Sligo on the back foot somewhat now.
Definitely, and even talking to some lads about it last week, it was Laois at home this weekend. If we can get a good performance, get maybe 2 points on the board, heading into that Wicklow game away doesn't seem overly daunting. Not that it's not a difficult trip. But, you lose to Laois, a disappointing performance, then, the myth of Aughrim grows, and it's Aughrim, very tough place to go to. It's a cliche, but, it can start to seep into lads' heads that it's maybe a difficult place to go rather than just a game to be won. So, I think, Tony McEntee and the managing team will be putting a lot of focus on this week, kind of blocking out that noise, getting the lads back kind of task-focused. Going back over just some of those basics, shutting up shop at the back. But yeah, it's definitely a difficult assignment, and quite unique this weekend. We'll have 2 Club All-Ireland winners with Crossmaglen and also Armagh in opposition camps on the side. And you'll have Oisin McConville up against Tony McEntee. So I know myself, when I was watching that great Armagh team back in the early noughties, I never imagined that I'd see a Sligo versus Wicklow National League game managed by 2 guys on the pitch.
It's funny you should say that, actually, because this weekend in the Division 1 National Hurling League as well, Laois come up against Tipperary, and Willie Maher, the Laois manager, is from Ballingarry, and Liam Cahill, the Tipperary manager, is also from Ballingarry. So there's 2 games this weekend where club mates are facing off on the sideline, which hasn't happened too often. I think Desi Farrell and Kieran McGeeney are both for Nafina. They faced off against each other. Michael Fenley and Henry Shefflin with Galway and Offaly. They're both Ballyhale, obviously. And it's happened a couple of times with Jimmy Barry Murphy and John Allen, and then with Jimmy Barry Murphy against Gerald McCarthy. I'm actually doing a piece for the paper at the weekend about this, so it's funny that you're after adding another one to the list in the two Crossmaglen fellas, but it's definitely.
Well, yeah, I thought it was extremely unique, but obviously not. No, it's been repeated all over the place. So
it's still unique enough now. It's still unique enough. It doesn't happen every day of the week anyway.
The geography of that one's probably interesting as well. The Laois and Tipperary game probably isn't taking place too far away from Aughrim either. But I think even the Oisin McConville Tony McEntee one is quite unique in terms of the location of the 2 counties, versus Armagh as well. Like it's they're not like they're in close proximity to their home club in Crossmaglen. So yeah, I'm sure there'll be a few interested heads from Crossmaglen who'll probably make the journey down to Aughrim this again too.
Without a doubt, another high-profile manager in Division 4. It's great to see such high profile even on the sideline in Division 4. When you look at, would say, Oisin McConville on the Wicklow sideline, and Andy Moran, obviously the former Mayo star in Leitrim, they've hit the ground running again. They would have been expected probably to get over Waterford, but did it with the minimum of fuss. They made quite a bit of progress last year. I know they would have been disappointed with how they went out at Tailteann Cup so kind of narrowly. The margins are so fine, obviously, but he's hit the ground running again with Leitrim by the looks of things.
Yeah, and from a Sligo perspective, there just seems to be a worrying bit of momentum and enthusiasm around the Longford or the Leitrim team since Andy Moran went in. But even this year, they just quietly seem to be progressing. Seems to be a decent bit of buy-in from the players in the county, which maybe hadn't always been the case. So as a team that will possibly Sligo will be hoping to look at promotion, as would Leitrim. You'd prefer to see them not with that bit of momentum and enthusiasm. But that said, they're a county, to be honest, I'd actually hugely admire them. A very small population, but, the interest in football in Leitrim is absolutely huge and probably understated across the country. People probably write them off, but, per capita, even their attendances are probably rack up against some of the bigger counties, especially, when you look at the likes of the attendances, maybe, footballers in Cork get stuff like that. Maybe that's an extreme example. But, definitely, I think Andy Moran has brought a bit of buy-in there. But, again, a strong backroom team as well. He has Mike Solon there, who is involved in his management team, who was in the running for the Mayo job. Lost James Glancy, the former Leitrim player, to the Longford backroom team this year. James Glancy would have worked with Paddy Christie in Ballymun when he was a games promotion officer up there. But like that, Andy has went out and he's recruited well, even to fill that backroom team. He's taken in Luke, who was involved with Anthony Cunningham in Roscommon last year. So, he's obviously done his homework on Luke as well. He'd come with a decent reputation. But, I think the big thing there as well is it's another young face added to that management team. And, just a lot of the changes in the game and, trying to get young lads at the minute bought into an inter-county system. If you have young faces, fresh voices, that's a huge thing. And, yeah, they had a pretty comprehensive win over Waterford. Then I suppose that comes with a question mark. Waterford came out the wrong side of a few narrow defeats last year, but their form wasn't great. They've always struggled with availability of players, especially when you look at how strong the pull of hurling is in the county. So you don't exactly know who or what was available to Effie Fitzgerald at the minute, or how far that is off the best they can offer. So Leitrim will be heading to London this week. I'd say Andy Moran, while delighted with the win last weekend, he'll be maybe scratching his head a little on what exactly he's learned about the players that took the field. Sometimes if you get a little bit of a test or a fright, it can actually help you. But they come forewarned with this London team. I think they played them, was it the second or maybe the third league game last year, and London defeated them. Again, that was actually played in the Centre of Excellence, Ballyhonus, during, it was definitely an orange weather warning. Probably a game that maybe shouldn't have went ahead. London pipped them in that one, and ultimately it kept Leitrim out of the race for promotion at the end.
Can I just ask you a quick one? There's an interesting one in Division 4. So one of London, Leitrim or Sligo, or potentially New York, but they're obviously not in Division 4. So one of those 3 or 4, if you include New York, is guaranteed a place in the Connacht final, and by extension the Sam Maguire. Which of those 4, or we'll even go which of the 3 in particular, looking at London, Leitrim or Sligo, is best placed to take that Connacht final place and the carrot of competing at Sam Maguire that potentially goes with it?
Yeah, it's a funny one. You maybe the inclination to discount New York, but I know from talking to a few friends over there when the draw was made last October and they were on the same side as the other 3, there was a few WhatsApp groups in New York buzzing with excitement and the thought of a Connacht final. So we might be writing them off too quickly.
That would definitely create lots of logistical problems for the GAA anyway, without a doubt, because I don't think they've never had to cater for that a second game. It's always only been the first game, so that would definitely be an interesting one if it did happen.
Yeah. Well, we've seen in the last 2 weeks the GAA are good at the problem solving skills, so that won't be an issue for them. But I guess there's probably a better even story there in terms of the New York team as well. The fact that they were able to come home last year and play a game in Ireland, and even, the progress in terms of the undocumented over there, that's not an issue for them anymore. It probably even points to the demographic of Irish lads going over there. So, there's definitely a positive story there, and also in the amount of homegrown players that they seem to be developing as well. So, they definitely deserve kudos for that. Looking at, I suppose, the other 3 that are in Division 4, It's very hard to say. London, again, kind of similar to some of the work New York have done on the home base. London are starting to develop a strong core. They have Michael Maher in there as manager. He has something about him. Seems to have retained, did I see 20 of last year's 29-man squad, which again, obviously for, a county, one of the, I suppose, the exile counties, it's going to be difficult to reduce that squad turnover, but they definitely seem to be, producing a few of their own lads who have, strong roots in London. So, and they've also added Enda Lynn from Derry this year, and Kevin McCarthy, who would have, played a bit of National League with Kerry as well. So, they've got a few additions like that, which also adds a sense of surprise that, a Sligo or Leitrim are never going to have, probably Division 1 footballers joining them over the winter months. So, it's going to be interesting to see where London go in the next few weeks. Then, Sligo and Leitrim, in terms of going into the race for Sam Maguire, a lot probably depends on how their league campaigns finish up. And, no matter what we say, whoever ends up in that kind of final is going to have had a win, in the Connacht Championship as well. And it's amazing what a Connacht Championship can win. And then, you're kind of looking at the draw you're going to get in that round robin. You're probably going to end up, with one provincial winner. I think is the draw set that it could be the Munster Championship winners will be in that group with the Connacht runners up. So then, if you could get a slightly favourable draw in Division 2, I think any of those three teams would like a rattle at two, maybe Division 2 teams in a group stage of a Sam Maguire. And then, maybe you get the right team at home. You can maybe try and get a victory, and then you're heading into next season. You're possibly looking at a team who has got promotion from Division 4, who has got to a Connacht final, and who has won a game in the Sam Maguire. So, you've had a great season there for a Division 4 team, and there's real tangible progress. So, I'm going to say it'd be great for Sligo to get to that kind of final. It'd be great to see David Clifford, Paulie Clifford in action in Markovich Park. So, I'll hang my hat on that one.
I was thinking the black and white hat would remain all right. Neil, thanks a million for joining us. We've another busy weekend of action coming up this weekend, and we'll talk soon, no doubt. Thanks a million.
Pleasure, Michael. Thank you very much. Take care. Enjoy.